What's up, guys? This is Mike from Better Me. I'm really happy to be back with you guys today because I want to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and that's really what the American dream actually is. And so the question is, have we been lied to our entire lives, right? Not intentionally, but because people were misinformed or miseducated. So your entire life, you might have been hearing your parents say, I want you to grow up, I want you to get an education, I want you to get a good job, and then I want you to buy a house. Now, on top of buying a house, I want you to save your money in your savings account, make sure you have plenty of money in there in case anything's to happen, right? Any emergencies that are happening, I want to make sure you have a good amount of savings in your savings account. Well, the question is, have we been lied to our entire lives? And again, not intentionally, but maybe by some misinformation. So today I want to talk about really what the American dream is. At least this is my view of what the American dream is and what it means to me. And so when we talk about home ownership as being the American dream, what are we actually talking about? A lot of people think that when they buy a home, your home is an asset. And so by definition though, an asset is something that produces you income. It's something that produces you wealth. Now, this is actually true in part if you look at somebody that wants to buy a home for an investment property. So if you go out there and you buy some kind of real estate, let's say it's a duplex or even a single family house, and you rent it out and somebody pays you rent, well, that income producing property is actually creating cash flow for you, right? So when people pay you rent at the end of the month, you're gonna take that rent check, you're gonna deduct your expenses from your property. So whether it's CapEx, right? So things like large expenses, like a new roof or fixing a toilet or fixing a chimney or something like that, some large expense, you're gonna deduct that expense from the rent, and anything left over, you're going to have a profit, you're gonna have cash flow. Now, if you have a single family property that you live in though, not so much an income producing property. It's really not an asset. It's actually a liability to you. So a liability to you is something that takes money out of your pocket. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. Again, a single family house, not so much an asset. It's more of a liability. And the reasons are as follows. When you own a home, you have to pay taxes on the property. So even if you've paid off that home entirely, you're still going to owe taxes. You're still going to owe money to fix things on the property, right? So if a toilet breaks, if you have a leaky roof, if you need new windows, you're always going to be putting money into that property. If you need landscaping done on the property, either you're going to do the landscaping, you're going to pay for the lawnmower, you're going to pay for the grass seed, you're going to pay for all the things that you need to do to maintain that property, or you're going to hire somebody to do that. And so even if your house is paid off, you're still going to have the occasional expenses, of course, primarily your tax bill, that's going to pop up every single month. And so for that reason, it's not an income producing property and it's actually a liability. Now, again, if you have something like a rental property, which I would say in my own personal experience, you want to either have a duplex or higher, meaning a 2-unit or higher, because if somebody leaves the property, you're still going to get rental income from half of that property, right? So you never want to rent out a single family property, because if that person leaves from that single family property, guess what? You're going to have no rental income coming in, and then that income producing property is going to turn into a liability for you. Okay, so what else I want to talk about is the real American dream. Okay, so the real American dream for me is going to be financial freedom. And the reason for that is because financial freedom for me provides passive income, right? So it allows me to generate assets, right? And an example of those assets could be gold, it could be baseball cards, it could be fine art, right? Or it could be building a business. Building a business is one of the best ways to have financial freedom. Why? Because this is something that could create passive income for you if you build it correctly. And this is something that you could pass on to your kids or your family to create a financial legacy for your family name. So building a business, absolutely 100% essential to financial freedom. So the problem is when people work a full-time job, they're trading their time for money. Right? So you're going to work 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, and you're going to get a specific paycheck at the end of the week, bi-weekly, or monthly. And that amount usually doesn't change. If you're what's called a salaried employee, if you get the same amount every single month, every single year, that's a salaried employee. So no matter how many hours you work, you're going to get the same amount. But if you work 40 hours, the only way that you could get more money in that job is if you apply for another position that pays more, or if you actually get a raise, which are typically anywhere between 0 to about 3 to 3.5%. if you're dealing with technology, corporate, etc. And so really, the only way for you to become wealthy or financially independent is to start a business. Because when you start a business, now you're trading your value. Now you're trading your value for money rather than your time. There's only a finite amount of time, but you can provide your value to a finite amount of people. So think about this. If I work 8 hours in a day, I'm going to get paid, let's just say $150 for the day, okay? But there's only a finite amount of time in the day. So I can only work a finite amount of hours. So ultimately, I'm putting a cap on my income. I'm putting a cap on my income two ways. The first way is if I'm a salaried employee. So again, I'm only going to make a certain amount of money every single year, every single month, no matter what I do. If I'm an hourly employee, I can only work so many hours of the day before I get burnt out. So many hours in the week before I get burnt out. And so ultimately, I'm only going to make a certain amount per week, per month, per year, based on the amount of hours that I work. If I start trading my value for a paycheck now, a skill set for a paycheck, building a business where I can have other people work with me to create income passively for me on a larger volume, on a larger scale, now I'm creating passive income for myself. Now I've actually built an asset. This business has become an asset. It's an income producing asset for me that's making money while I sleep. Not only that, guys, but I am taking advantage of tremendous tax deductions. In my business today, guys, I deduct my car, I deduct my gas, I deduct the mileage that I drive, I deduct meals with my clients, and all of this stuff takes away from my tax liability at the end of the year. So if I make $300,000 per year and I have deductions of $200,000 for the year, guess what? I'm only paying $100,000 on taxes. I'm only paying taxes on 100,000 of those dollars. So tax deductions are key. And a lot of people today that are working what's called a W-2 job, a full-time salary job for someone else, they're not able to take advantage of those tax deductions because they don't own a business. A lot of times people will try to pay the government early. They'll give the government their money early, right? And that's something we don't want to do. We want to try to keep our money for as long as we can. We want to keep as much of our money as we can so that we can have our money work for us. And the way to do that is to start a business and start being able to take deductions in your business. Now, I'm not going to get into the different type of deductions on this video, but I will definitely be creating a video on the different types of tax deductions that we can kind of talk about and go through. But at the end of the day, guys, the ultimate American dream for me is not necessarily home ownership in the sense of owning a single property for myself and for my family to live in, but rather entrepreneurship and owning a business, because that business is going to ultimately create financial assets for me that are producing income and cash flow for me that I can further invest into things like real estate, where I have apartment buildings, I have a duplex or a triplex, which is a 3-unit building, that's actually producing income for me that I can use to produce even more cash flow. So I hope you guys got some value out of this video. I was super excited to kind of give you a little insight into what I think is the American dream today in this country. And that is definitely entrepreneurship, that's definitely capitalism, not so much owning a home, like I said, unless you have a secondary property that is a rental property that is producing income and producing cash flow for you. If you have any questions, have any comments, please do reach out. And until then, see you in the next video. Take care.